Okay, so recording had not been turned on. So
Okay. So
it's on now if you want to catch the recording up and do whatever you need to do.
so Dan, do we need to do that again for the record?
No, I think you've done it. I think what you need to do is summarize what you've done so far. There's been two items where the council has taken action. And if you just want to put on the record what happened in the live meeting.
All right, I will do that. So the first thing we did was we approved the minutes of May 28th, 2020. And the second item was we discussed and agreed to extend ordinance 2020-03, which enables us to have public meetings without an anchor site until August 20th, 2020. And then the second agenda item that we took care of was that we seated Bob Naylorberg effective July 10th as a council member.
And he was sworn in.
And he was sworn in. Thank you. All right, so then I wanted to introduce to the council Sheriff Jared Rigby. As you know, we had budgeted for increased public safety presence in the town of Hideout for the 2020-2021 budget year. I've met with Sheriff Rigby a couple of times, most recently earlier this week, where we did a drive around the town and got a good look for what's going on. I wanted to make sure that the council all knew, had a chance to see Jared Rigby, Sheriff Rigby, at least virtually, and then to have you have the opportunity to share with him your concern areas for the town as far as public safety and security goes. So welcome, Sheriff. Thank you for being here. There he is.
Yes. Would you like me to take a few minutes and say a few things, or do you just have questions for me? And how can I help?
Why don't you say a few things first, just based on your first impressions with us, and then in the drive-through, and then we'll let the council ask some questions.
You bet. Well, thanks so much for the chance to be with you this evening, especially, you know, it's meaningful to me, I guess, to be part of Bob's swearing in. It reminds me of a year and a half ago, the last time that I took the oath of office. We had a pretty meaningful conversation yesterday in the Wasatch County Council meeting with some issues about the Constitution as well. And so very meaningful, very profound. That is the work that we're involved in, besides serving and protecting and caring for individuals, making sure that we do it within the confines that are set by the Constitution, and that we don't infringe on individuals' liberties, their constitutional rights. And so that's important to us at the Sheriff's Office. I've been here at the Sheriff's Office since 2001. I left for a few years to do a master's and a Juris Doctorate, but then came back and have been working here since. Started as a corrections officer and worked as a law enforcement officer in patrol. And I see that the Summit County attorney is with us this evening too, and say hi to her. But I was able to work for Summit County for about 8 years part-time at their sheriff's office and enjoyed that work. And so anyway, it's good to be with you this evening. We want to help you in Hideout and the surrounding area there in that north part of Wasatch County. That is the part of the county that is experiencing the most growth and will continue. And so it's an important part to me to make sure that our relationships are good. And so if you need me to be meeting with you on a regular basis, if the mayor or others need to be calling me at any time, my cell phone's available, and I would very much welcome that. I know that relationships are probably the most important thing that help us to serve the public and to get through the tough times. Anyway, we have about 100 employees here at our sheriff's office. That's both corrections and law enforcement and the civilian staff, the dispatchers and search and rescue. Anyway, we want to be able to help you in an increased way. I appreciate the mayor and probably the direction that the council's had in that as well. The mayor and I have been talking several times over the last year or so in order to get to this point. And so if we can be helping you by patrol and officer presence and traffic enforcement and responding to whatever level of calls of service, we do a minimal level without any kind of additional compensation, and we've been doing that. And if you have additional things that you would like us to be doing, law enforcement services, then we want to do that as well. And so if there's anything more that you'd like me to explain or any thoughts that you'd like me to express, I'm very much open to that, but just I'm here to help and like you, serve the good people of Hideout.
So Sheriff, do you do a service similar to what is being contemplated in our town for other towns in Wasatch County?
Yes. So we've been serving Midway City for years and years. I think our first contract with them might have been in about 1982 or so. And so for probably 25 years, it stayed the same. And about 2 years ago, we increased our the number of hours, our obligation there. And we're working with Midway right now to increase that some more because of all the growth they're experiencing as well. As far as other parts of the county, yes, with the Forest Service, we have some obligations that we're also working on right now with MITA. And so those are the areas right now that we're trying to help more than just that minimal level.
And so what specifically do you do for Midway? And would that be analogous to what you and the mayor have discussed?
So for Midway, we provide quite a few more hours. Right now we're at 60 hours and they're contemplating more a week, 60 hours a week. And so the actual service is similar. Traffic enforcement in certain areas. And so the mayor there will say, hey, we need help in this area or that area. And then we'll adjust. It's trying to keep good relationships with the businesses and with apartment complexes, those kinds of groups. But some of it has to do with attending meetings with the mayor so that we can be responsive to citizens. It has to do with patrolling and officer presence. You know, the minimal level of service that we're just trying to provide across the county, regardless of anything that you might need in addition, are going to things like the big calls for service, you know, domestic violence, vehicle thefts, vandalisms, those kinds of things. But if there's other things that are needed, some specific traffic enforcement, some specific work with areas where people live, that kind of thing where we're trying to be proactive and prevent things, or we need stronger relationships. Yeah, it has to do with all of that, in addition to the minimal level of service.
So Sheriff Rigby, that's kind of where I was headed in my line of questions. The mayor forwarded us the email for the law enforcement services agreement that you sent. And in it, you talk about patrolling, traffic enforcement, officer presence, responding to calls for service, and administration and dispatch fees. And I was curious, and I think you've explained portions of it, that, I know if I call 911 right now, the Wasatch County Sheriff is going to show up, or the Sheriff Department is going to show up. So how are those calls for service and dispatch different under what the taxpayers already pay for versus what we're contemplating here, engaging in additional services?
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate that. So bottom line is we're law enforcement. And so whenever somebody calls 911 or something similar to that, and they need help because they're feeling unsafe or because someone's breaking the law, we respond regardless. What a city or town, and this is just my opinion, if others want to add to it or have differing opinions, still might agree with that. The bottom line is that there's things such as citizen assist. We do VIN inspections. We'll go to people's homes, and whenever someone purchases a vehicle and then they need to get it registered, then you've got to get the title application and a VIN inspection. So we help with that. We'll help people that lock their keys in the car. We'll help people when they have questions about this and that, and they want to sit down, and it has nothing to do with law enforcement, but they have questions that somehow revolve around some civil issues and things like that. We don't want to come across as attorneys. We don't give legal advice, but we help with those kinds of things. So whenever a city or town has special events, whenever they're working through some kind of thing with schools or neighborhoods or businesses, or like, as I've mentioned, special events, then a lot of that is covered in what we can do in addition to just that minimal level of service.
So if someone were to call...
Jerry, sorry. Go ahead, Jerry.
I was going to say, if someone were to call the sheriff's office with one of those that you just outlined, and we weren't covered under the service agreement, what would be the sheriff's office response to a VIN inspection, for example, today?
Yeah, so what we try to do is we try to work something out still. Can they meet a deputy here at the office? It's not as convenient for them, but it's possible. Do they need to go to the DMV to get the VIN inspection instead of us coming to them? Can they talk on the phone for a few minutes with a deputy? Those kinds of things. And so really it comes down to, we're trying to be helpful, but we have areas west of Midway. We go down Provo Canyon. We're responsible for things out in the Strawberry Valley. It's a huge area with a lot of individuals. We're here at the sheriff's office. We're responsible for a search and rescue, which is one of the busiest in the state, the 911 center, a jail, and emergency management, let alone all the law enforcement services that are traditionally provided by a police department or a sheriff's office. And so there's a lot of work that gets done. And if people don't want to wait for 3 or 4 hours and only receive a telephone call, that's and then the deputies are, I'm sorry, I can only talk to you for a few minutes because I've got to get on to the next call. That's the baseline. If we're trying to provide something more, which the bottom line means that we're combining resources with the other cities and towns, the other entities that would like the same. What that actually means is we're hiring an additional person or half a person. So without even, and I don't want to get too much into details if you don't want to, but the bottom line is really a deputy will cost his wages and benefits about $110,000 to $120,000. That's not to start. That's kind of a few years in, but you don't want a bottom line green brand new officer. They don't know a lot, and so a few years in, they know a little bit more. Bottom line is wages and benefits are about $110,000 or $120,000. And then on top of that, we also have to figure in the vehicle, the fuel, their equipment, their uniforms, their training, all of that kind of thing. And so really, we start getting to about $70 an hour for costs. And that does not include dispatch fees or the oversight or administrative fees that it takes. And so the bottom line is that when the cities or towns would like the added service, level of service that's specific to your way of what you need, that's tailored to what you need, then it's sitting down and trying to come up with that and then actually doing it.
So, Sheriff, I not to minimize any of the things you said, they all sound very important, but, and I'm sure the mayor has already discussed this with you, I think for the town in general, our major concern is traffic, enforcing the traffic ordinances in town, and providing a presence that reminds citizens and construction workers and other visitors that the speed limit is to be enforced and safety is the primary concern, because frankly we don't have that now.
Yeah, so guys, I'm sorry, I should have said this at the beginning, and my apologies that, when the sheriff and I talked, we talked about speed, we talked about parking enforcement. We have a number of issues with parking. We're going to talk about a bit more of that in the next topic when we get to the county fire folks. We presence and just visibility so that we're getting to be spread out enough, and there are a number of our newer developments have not a lot of people yet, so there's not really neighborhood awareness of what's going on. So a presence there is helpful, as well as getting some as we've talked about many times in council, getting a car up on 248 so that they're visible more frequently than they are regularly. Again, no disrespect intended at all. As the sheriff mentioned, he's got a very big county, and he's got a budget, and he's got to staff and move people around. This allows us to basically get a dedicated 16 hours a week to for folks to be up in Hideout, for a deputy to be in Hideout and working within our community. So that to me is brings us a step forward. Now, as you also may have read in the note, we picked a 3-month period to test this all out and figure it out together. And if at the end of that, if we find out that 12 hours is better, we'll talk about that. Or if we think we need more, we'll talk about that too. But
Sheriff, would you expect that it to be a single deputy, or would there be someone that we would sort of become familiar with, or would it be a rotating cast of folks?
So at the beginning here with 16 hours, it would be a variety of individuals. Now, we have 15 deputies in patrol. So, you're going to get used to about 12 of them. But at 16 hours, yeah, it's still varied.
And that's 16 a week.
the other thing,
right?
sorry. And then,
Yeah.
sorry, yeah, a week. And And then the thought would be, Jerry, that we would look for some different time slots as well. I mean, we don't want to be so predictable that the people with ill intent know that they shouldn't do anything between 9 and 3, but otherwise do what you want.
Well, I think this is a long time coming, and I'm excited that this is in the offing.
Yeah, I would agree.
Our little town is growing up, right? We need these kind of
Right.
services.
Right,
Yeah, we've been without our own chief of police for quite some time here. So I had a question and then I just lost it. It'll come back.
Were they interested in a hideout police car?
No, the sheriff and I spoke, and it's financially advantageous to Hideout to allow Wasatch County to represent Wasatch County and not have to rebadge and reuniform as Hideout. So we're gonna be attentive to the cost structure and let these guys operate as Wasatch County.
It likely makes resolving tickets and paying fines and court visitation, all that kind of stuff easier if it's all under Wasatch too, right?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
So what do we have in our budget for this? Are we covered for the amount that we're talking about?
Well, we originally had budgeted $40,000 to be commenced in December. So we may have some tap dancing to do.
I thought we agreed on 70 for the year. That's what we initially put into the budget. So what did we?
40 starting in December. So we can.
That was last year's. That was last year's number.
I'm sorry.
That was last year's number.
What?
40 was last year's number.
No.
And that was insufficient. The 1920 number. So.
Mayor, if I might say, it is 40,000.
Okay, thank you, Wes.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll have to do a little juggling.
Yeah, that's roughly $3,000 a month.
Well,
So
because we really had talked about this starting in December, not now. But I would be all in favor of it, and I'd be trying to figure out how we would prioritize some stuff, because I think it's as construction continues to occur,
Yeah.
more and more dangerous situations that occur in town. We're just begging for a significant problem.
yeah, the other thing that we've talked about in other venues is potential for additional impact fees or such for parks and police, that kind of stuff. So
Right.
looking for other ways to fund this.
Yep.
Yep.
So the budget has enough money to go for this trial period, and maybe that allows us enough breathing room to figure out what it is that we're going to do to supplement the budget.
Mayor, can I add one thing?
Sure, Jim.
One of the things that that I had mentioned before that we need to be careful of is that when we come over, it needs to be for an extended period of time, at least 3 or 4 hours at a time, so that it makes it worth economic and efficient. And so I had told the mayor before, hey, it's going to be best if we really talk about increased services and doing an agreement if we're talking about $60,000 or more, because that 60 number makes the hours per week such that we can come over for extended periods of time versus we can only come over for an hour at a time. And so I still want to be open to all of those things, but to make it cost effective for all of us, that's the goal. We need to get at least into that category.
So guys, we can review the budget work separately, but we'll have to decide whether or not we're ready to commit to, the annual cost, because he's not going to come up for 3 months and then not hire somebody and then not have something for them to do. So we'll have to figure that out and be clear. So
Well, Sheriff,
we'll hit the
the
budget.
way
Take a
you were
look at that.
describing it, are you looking to hire? I mean, it wouldn't be a full-time spot for Hideout, right?
It's not at 16 hours a week, it's not. But as I was mentioning, and maybe not clear enough, when we're able to pool the various resources for the other cities and towns, then we're able to be cost efficient and actually hire an additional person so that they can be shared, so that we can continue to provide the minimal level to the rest of the county. If it's going to be for 3 months, I'm willing to do it. What it means is that we have to kind of bend over backward in order to continue to do our minimal level in other places and also do the increase. But if we're going to be doing
Ultimately, you want a longer contract, and what is
Yeah.
the normal length that you're
So do we.
comfortable with?
so overall, we'll do things for about 5 years at a time.
Okay. So after this trial period, we should be looking at discussing a 5-year contract.
It's ideal. I mean, it's all negotiable, that's for sure. I don't want it to come across that it's a take it or leave it, that's for sure.
Well, again, I think this is long overdue. I think there's issues that we need to really need to correct, and we get more and more feedback from citizens with issues that are concerning all around town. And so I think we just need to work our way through it budgetarily, and make sure that what makes sense for us makes sense for you, Sheriff. But I'm all in favor of this.
So thanks, Kurt and Jerry. How are we going to measure the impact of having the additional county patrols? Because currently, I mean, I don't know what our current measures are, but I imagine we don't have.
Non-existent.
We don't really have any. But I know we've had problems. For example, obviously speeding, but people going the wrong way around the roundabout.
Right.
I mean, is there something we can measure so that we can find out after the 3-month period, is this actually helping us working? Is there an impact, a positive impact? Do we have any measures we can think of?
I think, Chris,
Tickets written, parking tickets written, just feedback from citizens.
Contacts that the deputy makes, just the number of contacts that the deputy makes with citizens for those kinds of things, I think these guys log all this stuff. So, there'll be a log that says, there were 6 different times when I stopped a vehicle in the town and had a contact with the driver, or, half a dozen vehicles on 248, where we're reminded of the speed limit and that kind of thing.
I'm thinking ahead to after the trial period. How are we going to judge, was this successful or not? Do we want to enter into a longer term contract? So that's the kind of things I'm looking for in order, because I do think law enforcement is hugely important in a community, for citizens to feel safe, for us to hopefully prevent problems, but also to be able to respond to incidents. So effective, more quick response would be good. But I just want to make sure we're ready when we exit, this trial period, to be able to evaluate, if we want to continue with a longer term contract.
Great point.
Is that a report that Sheriff, that your office can provide to the council that helps describe what the impact was?
So we're big on what we call data-driven decisions, or data-driven policing. And so in order to capture the right numbers, though, we've got to know from the beginning what we're after. And
Traffic.
so
Traffic.
happy with the mayor and doing, you bet, traffic is definitely one of those things. Overall, though, having been through that before, we'll be able to show you those things as long as we know what it is we're after from the beginning. As long as we also leave open the fact that evidence and data, they get us far. It's really what our citizens have to say, our feedback, and it's a feel that is going to make the biggest difference. But that's not to say that we're not after data. Let's get after that.
I know a couple days ago I saw the sheriff's vehicle drive up my street, and it just reminded me that having a police presence is significant, right? So, you know, it makes citizens feel more comfortable when they know that there's police nearby if they were to need them. So I think you're right. There's some intangibles too that will be more difficult to measure. And not to be indelicate here, but when we're talking about citations and fees that are paid as a result of those citations, does or can any of that revenue go to help pay for the service?
No, Jerry. The way that this works, I mean, without incurring a whole bunch of additional costs, is that any revenue generated basically goes to Wasatch County from these things, and which is fine from my perspective, because what we want is the presence and the people slowing down and behaving, traffic wise and so forth. So it's not about being a revenue stream for the town of Hideout. Again, if we want to create
I wasn't suggesting it's a revenue stream. I was suggesting that potentially it could help offset the fees that we're paying to the sheriff's office for the service.
And I think, and to Chris's point, I think it'd be important for us, Sheriff, if in fact the number of tickets that were written, the dollar amount of those tickets in sum, if we can get that as a metric as well. We'd like to be interesting to understand what kind of revenue that is generating.
Yeah, just to be clear, I'm all for not necessarily writing tickets, but getting people to slow down, warning them to slow down, don't do anything illegal like going the wrong way in the traffic circle. Just the mere presence obviously will cause people to take their foot off the gas and maybe approach the speed limit. That's all important stuff, and that's kind of the goal we're looking for, is just good community contact, better better behavior of the people that are within the town. That's really what I'm looking for. Kurt, I'm not very, if it's necessary to write a citation and charge somebody a fine, then do it. But if we can get them to slow down without doing that, that's perfectly good for me as well.
Well, let me give you an anecdote, and it's only an anecdote. About a month ago, a dump truck cut the wrong way across the circle. I followed him. When he stopped, I said, "Hey, you did that completely wrong," and he laughed at me. And so then I go, Ed can't go over and talk to him, but you don't have the problem. He's not going to laugh at the Wasatch County Sheriff guy, pull him over. And I don't know. That's got to be more than a speeding ticket to go the wrong way on a circle. That's got to be a significant, I would hope, fine for him. And then the word spreads.
I'm with you, Chris. I think our goal here is to correct behavior. If the sheriff's department feels that a citation is the best approach to do that behavior correction, or whether or not warnings are appropriate, leave it to their discretion. I think they do that today. But yeah, our goal is not to meet a ticket quota. Our goal is to correct the behavior.
But it would be nice to know how many warnings, how many tickets were given.
Every citizen contact, I think, is important to understand, and the reason for the contact and the outcome of the contact, I think, would be valuable information.
So, Mayor, what are you looking for from us?
I'm caught off a little bit off guard because I was confident that we had budgeted the full amount for the year in there, and somehow missed the fact that we changed that. So we need to do a little work on figuring out where we're going to extract the delta. But I was just looking for your support to move forward. You guys we've been talking about this for some time and saying we need to do it. The sheriff is ready to help us as soon as we're ready. And so my apologies, Sheriff, that in misunderstanding that I thought the budget funds were already there for 2020, 2021. But
I'm supportive.
Yeah, I mean,
We'll figure out how to
we'll
pay
figure
for this trial, and then figure out how we fund it ongoing.
Yeah, I would agree. This is a long time in coming. I would like to see how this works out for us in this trial period.
I have one question, and that is,
Sure.
we keep talking about the traffic, which is the major issue, and the speeding, but do these services take place only after you turn off onto Hideout Hideout Trail into town, or will they also include 248 and all the people that are speeding on 248 that impede us from pulling out and getting onto 248?
If that's open to you, if that's something that's important to you, then I think that's something that we should make a priority. I also need to work with the Highway Patrol because SR 248 is their jurisdiction, but it's within Wasatch County, so it's within ours as well.
Yeah,
we
the
do have to
intent, Carol, was to increase presence on SR 248 as part of this arrangement.
Yeah, I would think that'd be an important component within the town of
I just wanted to
Hideout.
make sure. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The other thing, if you all remember, when we started this process, we reached out to the apartments at the Deer Mountain Affordable Community, and they were highly supportive of this as well. Had high value for Sheriff's Patrol being able to be more visible in the apartment complex than just on an on-call basis.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I heard this. I got the same feedback a while ago from the manager over there, and who had been excited that when we had our own town police officer, that they would often have an opportunity to patrol there, as well as that Ross Creek area where the park is. There's a lot of activity there lately, especially with the park getting so much use and all that construction going on. That's right adjacent to the apartment complex.
All right, so I think, Mayor, you've got it. We're generally supportive of this. We'll figure out how to make it work, and let's come back with something concrete.
Okay. I'll work with the sheriff. I'll be in touch, and we'll work some details out, and I'll work with the budget committee and make sure that we have a way to close the gap.
Thanks for letting me spend time with you.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank
Sheriff.
you.
Appreciate it. Our next item on the agenda is discussion with the Wasatch County Fire Marshal regarding fire and safety for background purposes. At the request of council, the fire marshal, Mr. Nearings, came up and visited the town with equipment from the fire district, and talked with the council members and others, whoever else was present. I know Dan was there, and may be some others. I unfortunately had a medical.
Ryan.
Couldn't be there. Ryan, the town engineer, and helped us understand what they really needed to be sure that we could get reasonable emergency access, fire, and egress, with both what's in place today and as we think about code for the future. So I wasn't there, so I'm going to stop and let Jerry or Kurt, one of you guys kind of, if you want to give any more background, otherwise we'll let the fire marshal give us some comments.
I think that's probably fine on background. I know that, we had discussions with Clint about, what challenges we face, and we wanted to understand what their office, they sent us a letter of concern that sort of prompted all of this. So we want to make sure that we understand fully what their concerns are as we begin to craft solutions for it. So we're anxious to hear what the Wasatch County Fire District has to say with regards to safety within the town. And Phil, I see you got your cap.
Yes, I got my cap, and and I'm sure that the Wasatch County Police will also encumber me with one once we strike a deal.
So who from Wasatch County Fire is here to talk?
I think Clint's on the line.
Yes, sir.
Clint, the floor is yours.
Excellent. So we just want to thank the town council for all the help and how open they are to having us come and discuss the concerns. This kind of dates back for quite a while. We've reached out to previous councils and mayors to discuss some options. So we're really happy to be able to meet with you and discuss the concerns. It's really a very basic concern. So the state adopts the fire code, which in turn Wasatch County adopts the state amended fire code. Fire code requires a minimum. So any kind of code that is adopted through the state and county is an absolute minimum. The minimum apparatus access that fire code allows is 20 feet. So 20 feet gets us up to a home. So a single family home up to 3 with a shared driveway, a 20-foot access would be adequate. The problem we run into is there's 2 separate classifications of fire apparatus access roads. We have a 20-foot road and then a 26. So when the 26-foot road comes into play is anytime there's fire hydrants on an access road or the buildings are in excess of 30 feet measured to the eaves. So the reason why this becomes important is everybody knows a fire apparatus isn't your normal Geo Metro. It takes up a wide girth as it's traveling down the road. So our apparatus that we have that would respond to Hideout Town is our Jordanelle Ladder 1. So just it measured mirror to mirror is about 10 to 10.5 feet wide. And the reason why you require a more significant width for an apparatus with an aerial device attached to it is in order to safely deploy for a rescue situation for a victim that's trapped or to get vertical ventilation, we have to deploy out our side outriggers, our stabilizer bars. So on the apparatus that's stationed at the Jordanelle facility, once those stabilizer bars are out, we take up just shy of 21 feet. So the concern we have with some of the roads in Hideout is we vary from 17 to 20 to 21 feet, including the shoulders. What we're looking to do is start afresh, and anything that we do from now forward would at least be a code minimum of the 26 feet. Most cities and towns around the county have a more restrictive code, and that's where we don't want you to feel like you're restricted to the 26-foot max. But code, any code, whether it's a building code, plumbing code, mechanical code, is minimum. The town's more than welcome, and the fire district would be very supportive of anything 26 foot or in excess of that. We could have multiple events within a scene, a fire with burn victims, trap victims, have someone with smoke inhalation, or we could have a scene in addition to a scene. For a fire, we either have to get law enforcement or EMS ambulances past the fire scene to render time critical.
We're getting a whole lot of background noise. And I missed what.
Jerry, can you mute anyone?
Yeah, I think it was Bruce. So Clint, can you back up just a second and repeat about the last 30 seconds of what you were saying?
Yeah, absolutely. So any code they adopt, whether it's a building code, a plumbing code, mechanical, any code is a minimum. So we don't want the town to feel like they're bound to a maximum of 26 foot. The 26 foot's a minimum. Reason being, if we have an incident within an incident, meaning we have a burn victim, a trap victim, smoke inhalation, or some sort of a cardiac problem because of a fire, we need to get additional EMS rigs in, as well as law enforcement. Or if we have incident after an incident that we get set up, we're having suppression operations have been initiated at a structure, and beyond where we're set up, we have a law enforcement issue, or we have a medical issue that we have to get to that patient for these time critical situations where if an apparatus takes up the full width of the road, getting past and getting gurneys, equipment, and personnel to someone that's down the road becomes problematic if my aerial apparatus encompasses the entire road.
But sort of on a
Hey,
different
hey,
topic.
Kurt, if I could intrude on council's time for just a minute, would it be possible for me to ask Clint to provide a little bit of kind of foundational and background information before we get further into his discussion? Would that be okay?
Sure.
Okay.
What sort of background?
Sure. Clint, can I ask you a couple of questions, Clint?
Absolutely.
Sure. So just so everybody who is on the phone is aware, and so that our record is clear, you are Clint Nearings, correct?
Correct. Clint Nearings, Fire Marshal, Wasatch Fire.
Okay. And how long have you been in that role, Clint?
I've been with Wasatch Fire and EMS since 2007. I was an assistant marshal in 2011. I took over the fire marshal position in mid-2012.
Okay. And as fire marshal, tell the council what some of your roles and responsibilities are specifically.
Our main role as the fire marshal is fire safety throughout the county. With towns, mostly it comes, most of my day is for development and building permits that come through that make sure we can get apparatus to and from an incident, whether that's law enforcement, ambulances, or fire.
Okay.
It's basically fire code enforcement for fire safety.
So would it be fair to say that as far as municipal fire safety issues go, with respect to Wasatch County, you would be the go-to person to address these types of concerns?
Correct.
Okay.
It's the
And
fire suppression entity that would be responding to your town to suppress a fire, whether it's wildland or structure. The fire
Okay.
chief over it, and I'm his designee.
great. And so in terms of helping towns and cities to plan for fire safety issues and plan for fire safety events, that is within your jurisdiction and the product of your training. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And Wasatch County Fire District is the entity that provides the fire safety and fire suppression services for the town of Hideout, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And can you tell me a little bit more about a typical event when you deploy? The other day you brought up a ladder truck and a pickup truck. If you had a fire event within the town of Hideout.
Dan, you just froze. Dan, you froze. I'm sorry, you'll have to go back to, can you tell me more about?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
You didn't freeze for me, but
Yeah, you didn't freeze for me either,
Oh,
Dan. You
Didn't
were
freeze
fine.
for me either.
All right, sorry, never mind. That must have been me.
Okay. So Clint, what I was getting at is, in a typical event, is that the stable of equipment that you would bring, a pickup and a ladder truck, or what's kind of a typical deployment situation for you?
A minimum response that we'd have would be the on-call battalion chief would respond, one suppression apparatus, whether it's a structure-only truck or a ladder truck. If we have a confirmed structure fire, more than likely it's going to be that ladder truck, and then one ambulance. So you're going to have minimum of one pickup with a command staff in it, a suppression apparatus, and an ambulance.
and how
addition-
wide is the ambulance typically?
Pardon?
How wide is the ambulance typically?
About 9 feet.
Okay. And so an ambulance is 9 feet. Just to be clear, the ladder truck that you have, that ladder number 1 is 10.5 feet wide in a typical situation. And your
21 feet with outriggers, right?
Yeah, 21 feet with outriggers.
21 feet, correct.
Yeah. Okay. And tell us about situations. You indicated that occasionally you encounter events that would be a multiple event or would involve multiple vehicles. Tell me about situations where you would respond with, say, the police department or the sheriff's department or other jurisdictions.
So anytime we have a confirmed structure fire, we rely very much on law enforcement, whether it's Heber City PD or Sheriff Rigby's deputies, to do crowd control, street control. Anytime you have a significant event with flashing lights, you get a lot of onlookers and people want to see what's going on. So they do road control, so we don't have people accessing the fire scene. We don't have them driving over our large diameter hose that provide water to our structure firefighters that are interior. So we do rely pretty heavily on law enforcement to control the scene outside of the structure fire for us.
Okay. So is it fair to say that when you're responding to events, it is frequently the case that you would have not only fire, but law enforcement vehicles on any given scene at any given time?
And ambulance.
And ambulance.
Absolutely.
Okay. And if I'm understanding you correctly, Clint, and you correct me if I'm wrong, the reason and the rationale for the minimum standard, the fire code standard of 21 feet, is to allow access for in a situation like you've been describing, allow access for multiple vehicles to be passing back and forth during an emergency event. Is that correct?
Correct. The intent of the code is to allow one apparatus to pass another one to either go to an additional scene, an additional incident, or in support of the incident that's having the emergency.
Okay. And the fire code, when you reference the fire code that's been adopted by the state and a minimum of 21 feet, 26 feet, tell me what that refers to. Is that a 26 foot right of way or 26 foot paving? What is the fire code standard?
The code specifies for an aerial access 26 foot exclusive of shoulders, so 26 foot of pavement, and it has to bear the weight and be designed engineered to withstand 75,000 pound force.
Okay. You also mentioned that that 26 foot is the minimum, and that other jurisdictions don't necessarily adhere to just the minimum, but have a wider standard. Can you tell us what some examples of other jurisdictions that would have a wider standard than the 26 foot would be?
I can't quote offhand what minimum standards for Midway or Heber or Daniel. I just know that we don't raise the concern very often in these development review committee meetings that we attend to, because their minimum standard is usually 30 to 35 if I were just to guess offhand.
Okay. Okay. Well, Clint, thank you for that information. I just wanted to kind of make sure that the council had the background of your experience and the fire district's point of reference before they started asking some additional questions.
Those are great questions, Dan.
Yeah. So Clint, now that you've been cross-examined, I felt like I was in a courtroom there for
But it was good. I liked it.
Yeah, it's excellent. So, our demonstration on Tuesday, we did video, and we'll be sharing that video at a later point in time. I just wanted to make sure, Clint, that I invited you to where that video was, that raw or that unedited footage was uploaded to. I want to make sure you were able to access it.
I've accessed and I haven't opened it and watched it yet. We had a bit of a hectic day, so it's got away from me to this point.
Terrific. So it's my understanding that the that your office needs to review that footage before any of it's made public. Is that correct? I'm
Correct.
sorry, I didn't hear. Okay. All right. So, ultimately, we want to share that footage as much as is appropriate and approved by the fire district. It was a very informative afternoon, and I think there was some children in the Hideout that got a surprise. So we found some kids in town, and
In a good way.
and that was great in a good way. So they got helmets and they got to sit in the fire truck, and I'd love to have that when I was a kid. But so Clint, I also wanted to ask you, recently we've had fires in Midway. We had one last week, I guess it was, near Lehigh, and each of those events required evacuation. So can you talk to us about what evacuation might look like? What kinds of things we need to be aware of if there were an evacuation order, an event within the town of Hideout?
So an evacuation is going to be a multifaceted event. It's going to include Wasatch Fire District. We're going to call in the troopers as close as they are. And with your discussion with Sheriff Rigby, it's going to rely heavily on officers to do the evacuating. Once we respond out there, our main thing is going to be control and contain the head of the fire to try to mitigate the loss and start getting law enforcement to do some sort of evacuations. At the saddle fire that we did have in Midway, our initial, we had state park units start to do the evacuations while we deployed resources to get to the head of the fire to slow it. It's going to be a very precautionary. We're going to start evacuating as soon as we can, the closest, and move out. So it takes a lot of resources for suppression and even evacuation of residents, especially in a town like Hideout where you have maybe a 50-50 mix of full-time residents or second homes where they need to verify that somebody's not in there asleep, they're not in there in the restroom facilities, that we're not overlooking someone that is in the home that needs to be evacuated. So it is a very time-consuming thing from a law enforcement standpoint to evacuate.
And from an infrastructure standpoint, what kinds of things should the town be looking at to ensure that if an evacuation event were to occur, that we would be as efficient as possible?
Multiple points of access. So that's been our main concern as we've been reviewing the developments come through over the last year and a half, is getting that connection from the current city town center down towards the state park pump house for Jssd. That's in the works to be connected so that we can move people through multiple points, and then also being able to access and utilize the gravel road that goes towards the Tuahey subdivision.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council?
I think we'll have multiple ones as we start to overlay what we've just heard and some other information that we have. But this is a great first start, and I'll tell you, it was a very eye-opening experience to travel with the folks from the Wasatch Fire Department. The driver of that vehicle obviously had lots and lots of training and did a great job on roads that were, to my way of thinking, difficult for him to traverse. So he did a great job.
So yeah, good. Clint, thanks so much for taking the time with our team. As you know, we're working on revising code to beef up our ability to deal with the things we talked about tonight. We're working on parking standards. We're working on roadway standards, and your participation with the community has been immensely helpful as far as our getting a much better understanding around what's needed to protect the citizens. So we thank you very much for all that, and we're going to continue our dialogue with you as we work through these standards and come up with some improved considerations for the town of Hideout, and your participation, and particularly the video, will help us help our citizens understand why we're going to do things that may restrict parking, for example, and help them understand why we're doing it and why we're doing it for the right reason. So, anybody else from council? Anybody else from council have anything for the fire marshal?
I have no further input, but I just want to thank Marshall Nearings. Some of the things you mentioned tonight I had not heard before, especially the typical response and the widths of the vehicles. That's all new information for me. So very important for us to consider when we go forward with our code changes.
So thanks again, Clint. We really appreciate it. Obviously, you're welcome to stay on for the rest of the meeting, but we know you're a busy guy. So if you need to step off, we understand.
Yep, we appreciate the time and the help and the ability to work with you. If there's any questions, feel free to give me a call or send me an email and we can discuss any problems that we have.
Thank you, Clint.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay. So the next item is listed as a public meeting to discuss a pre-annexation agreement in connection with obtaining landowner consent for possible annexation and possible town council action to authorize the mayor to finalize and execute a pre-annexation agreement. For background purposes, let me kick this off. So in February of 2019, the town of Hideout approved a new general plan which identified a number of needs for the community, including a need for neighborhood commercial services, additional green and public spaces, better connectivity to transit, and a whole bunch of other stuff. In August of 2019, the town of Hideout, recognizing the goals of the general plan could not be met solely by the land space inside the town's existing annexation policy, approved a revised annexation policy plan, incorporating additional parcels into the plan, including some parcels that are in Summit County. And then in May and June of 2020, the Utah State Legislature approved changes to Section 10-2-418 of the state code, changing the requirements for annexation and allowing a municipality to annex unincorporated space in bordering counties. As a result of the code changes, the town believes it is in a position to be able to consider initiating the annexation of some parcels in Summit County, which the town previously identified in the August 19 annexation policy plan. The town has approached the developer who has the purchase rights to the parcels under consideration this evening. The developer, M. Brockbank Investments, LLC, has expressed an interest to partner with the town of Hideout to develop these properties and is willing to consent to a town-initiated annexation process. Mr. Brockbank has also agreed to sign a pre-annexation agreement describing the way in which the town and Mr. Brockbank will work together during the annexation process and finalize a proposal for development of those parcels under consideration. This agreement has been shared with council, I will now ask council for, and I know there have been a number of comments back and forth through review of that agreement, but I'll take comments now from council on any other comments they want to add to or regarding the agreement content.
No further comment.
I have none.
I have none.
Yeah, I have nothing further to add other than the feedback that the other council members have provided prior to now.
Okay. Then, assuming that the agreement is modified to accommodate the comments from council that were made electronically, and that Mr. Brockbank accepts the modifications, I now would ask that council authorize me to finalize and complete the agreement on behalf of the town. And if so, I need a motion to do that.
Do we need to have Is this open to the public? It says public meeting.
This is a public meeting, not a public hearing, Kurt. So the mayor can allow it, but it doesn't require it.
Thank you. I'd move that.
I'll second.
Okay. Carol,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Kurt.
Yes.
Sorry. Thank you. Okay, so we have agreement that we can move forward with the pre-annexation agreement. Okay. The next item is a resolution of intent and a public hearing to discuss the public hearing to discuss possible town council action to adopt a resolution indicating the town council's intent to annex that same property that we just discussed. Jerry, there is, I think the best way to do this would be to show the visual. I've got it ready. If you want to allow me to share, I could do that.
1 second. All right, you are now host. And I guess I need to stop share. There you go.
So are you seeing
Yes.
a map?
Yes.
Okay. So let me try and bring that up a bit. Okay. For clarification purposes, the area in green is the existing hideout boundary. The area in purple is the existing MITA boundary. The area in, I'll call that pink for lack of better terminology, is Park City. And the area in yellow is the annexation areas that we identified in our August 2019 annexation policy plan update. And then the area in the box here, which I'll zoom in on, is describes the parcels that we are considering annexation of. I'm sorry, I'm talking and adjusting the screen at the same time, so my apologies if it's a little chopped up in my description or language here as we talk. So I think that, so the area in black, the dark lines, is the area that we are considering for annexation. So it's these parcels here in coming from the end of town, including a section of I guess what's commonly referred to as a cherry stem up SR 248 and into this area here, which intersects with Richardson Flat Road, which is this one here running through here. And that's the space that is the black, again, inside the black bars is what's being recommended or considered for possible annexation. I'm going to switch, if you'll give me a minute, and I will show you the resolution if you give me a second. I'll get that up on the screen so we can see the language. As soon as I,
Mayor, if it's in that second tab of your PDF, you don't have to change any share. You just need to click on that tab.
yeah, I don't think it is, Jerry.
Okay.
I don't think it's in the council package because I think it came too late. So I'm gonna have to pull it up. But I thought I had it open, but apparently I don't. So just give me 1 second. Here's the resolution. Oh, it's in Word. That's why I'm not. It is already open. My bad. It was in Word. I was looking for it as a PDF, but it's in Word. So let me share the Word. So I'm gonna go back to here, or sorry, to the meeting. And new share. Here we go. So are you now seeing the Word document?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm asking the council to consider a resolution of intent as written here. Whereas on or about August 22nd, 2019, the town amended and revised the annexation policy plan, which we've discussed, and that the current annexation policy plan and expansion area include land located within both Wasatch and Summit County. And whereas the town of Hideout is considering the possible annexation of real property described in Exhibit A, which was the map I just shared. And we have the specific legal descriptions of each of those parcels. And whereas the code as amended by, that should say Senate Bill 5004, which I can fix because it's a live document. Signed by the governor on June 29th, allows a municipality to annex real property, notwithstanding the requirements of Utah Code 10.2.402, -1, 2, and 6, and the Utah Code 10-2-418 allows the municipalities to adopt a resolution indicating a municipal legislative body's intent to annex certain real property. Then now, therefore, be it resolved by the town council, the town of Hideout, Utah, as follows. Section 1, foregoing recitals are hereby incorporated into the resolution as findings of fact. Section 2, intent to annex, pursuant to Utah Code 10-2-418. Town council hereby declares its intent to annex the real property described in Exhibit A, as I mentioned. A public hearing prior to adopting an ordinance approving the annexation of real property described in Exhibit A, the town council would hold a public hearing as provided for in Utah Code 10-2.418, at which members of the public and affected entities would have an opportunity to participate and provide comment. The mayor is directed to provide notice of the public hearing contemplated by Section 3. The mayor shall determine the date of the public hearing, which shall be not less than 30 days following the passage of this resolution. The mayor shall ensure that the notice of the public hearing conforms to the requirements and processes set forth in Utah Code 10-2-418 and -7 and 418-8. And this resolution would become effective immediately upon adoption by the town council. So that's the resolution. Again, let me switch back to the share.
We've got somebody on a hot mic. If you can mute, please.
Okay. And again, we can, instead of looking at the legal descriptions of all these parcels, I thought that the picture would be suitable, better suited for our needs. So that's the space. The intent is to open for, first to allow council to ask any questions, and then I would open for public comment.
I have no questions.
None from me either.
No questions.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. It's obvious by the map and the description here what we're talking about.
Okay, thank you. Then I will open this for public comment. There, I'm trying to figure out how to do this from a meeting perspective, so that we don't have everybody stepping on each other. So,
May I make a suggestion, Mayor?
sure.
So through Zoom, there's the ability for participants to raise their hand. So perhaps you could ask folks to click that raise hand button and then you could call on them.
Yep. Where do they find that raise hand button?
So if they look at the participants list,
Yeah.
there's an ellipsis, a dot, 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 and you can touch that and raise your hand. I'll go ahead and do it myself right now. And that's what it looks like.
So Chris, it's the blue hand that Chris just
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
And then I can lower my hand. If you raise it by accident or you, whatever, then you just hit lower hand and it stops. So if members of the public would click that raise hand button, Mayor, then you'd have an opportunity to call on them.
Perfect, thank you. So does everybody know how to do that? Any, again, where is that ellipsis? Because I'm not seeing it in the list.
Yeah,
Just-
it'll
Although people, down the bottom.
the participant
Down the
icon.
There it is, down there at the bottom. Okay.
Right.
and then it's possible that there are folks who are just participating by phone. Maybe you could just take a poll at the end, see if anybody by phone who wasn't able to raise their
Good idea.
hand. And then I think you can get to everyone that way.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. And my apologies to, as we all learn how to do life in Zoom. So I'm just going to go based on the list that I'm seeing. There's someone named Carol who's got their hand up. If you would identify yourself and ask your question.
Oops. I wonder if it's me. Oh,
Or is that you, Carol?
I think it's me. Yeah.
It is you. Okay.
Okay.
You testing out that hand raise, are you?
I did. Okay. So, no, I switched it to lower. Well, whatever. Okay.
All right. You're off now, so that's fine.
Thank you.
Christopher Robinson. If you would come on, you can come off mute and ask your question.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity. I'm a member of the Summit County Council in my 12th year, and I attended the meeting on August 19 of last year, objecting to the annexation declaration that you passed that was coming into our county, into Summit County. And of course, this is quite a land grab from our perspective, and we're a bit chagrined that city government wouldn't at least give us some notice of this action. It's only by happen chance that we're participating tonight. And we have a great deal of concerns with it, and we're wondering if it would be possible to schedule a meeting with city leaders and county leaders to discuss this before the pre-annexation agreement is signed. And before this resolution is passed.
We absolutely want to have a meeting with you. I believe the staff has reached out to the planner about that, but if not, then absolutely we want to sit down with you and talk about this and why we think it's a good thing.
When would we be
and
able
hear
to
you.
do that? Could we schedule a time now?
We can schedule it. Absolutely, we can schedule that next week.
I mean, we could go into greater detail, but obviously we haven't seen the pre-annexation agreement. Maybe no one has. And this is the first time we've seen this plat.
Mayor, can I just ask a question? If that's
Yes.
anticipated to be a meeting that is, you know, attended by a quorum of the council, we just need to make sure that we notice that as a public meeting.
I don't know that it needs to be attended by a quorum. It could likely be attended by the mayor and staff and a subset of the council, and the same from Summit County.
I'd be fine with that.
If we could schedule that on Monday or Tuesday of next week, we'd appreciate that.
Monday won't work for me, but Tuesday can work. I will check with staff and see if we can identify a time to do that.
Would it be possible to receive a copy of this plat by email, this annexation plat, as well as the pre-annexation agreement?
Yep, absolutely.
My email address is cfrobinson@summitcounty.org. And if you wanted to reach me, my cell is 801-599-4397.
Okay. Yeah, we can look at Tuesday the 14th. Oh, sorry, am I on the right? Yeah, not because today's 9/10. Yeah, Tuesday the 14th, right?
Yeah, that'd be a good day.
Okay, so I'll have staff reach out and identify a time to do that. And we'll get that set up.
Thanks very much.
Would you like that to be a Zoom session? Is that ideal, or are you looking for something that would require face-to-face contact?
I think face-to-face would be better. We can socially distance and wear masks. We'll find a venue with lots of room.
Okay. I'm willing to mask up and do that. We'll see if we've got, I'm not going to put anybody who's uncomfortable in that situation.
Agreed.
In
that's
that
fine.
space. So
Yeah, I would
we
like
may end
to.
up doing some combo of that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Great, thank you.
So we may do Zoom as well.
Okay.
So that we can get both. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Anything else?
No, I think that, there's lots to say and talk about, but we know too little at this point.
Okay, thank you. The next hand up is David Everett. If you would unmute and bring your question or comment.
Hi there. Thank you for the chance to speak during this public hearing. I'm one of Park City's 2 deputy city managers and was asked to sit in and listen to the meeting and offer some comments on behalf of Park City. I believe that you all received a letter from the mayor back on June 17th of 2019 that really spells out a lot of the concerns that I think Park City still has regarding the potential for annexation to reach into, Hideout's annexation to reach into the area that is a previously designated pre-annexation area for Park City. I think we're very concerned from both a process standpoint and on a substantive level with what feels like an attempt to move very quickly and do so in a manner that doesn't particularly respect other jurisdictions that are in play here. And so I know that the city shares Councilmember Robinson's concerns and his and stands with those thoughts about how to perhaps better share information and also receive, I think is pretty fair to say, what has been lack of really appropriate notice to both the affected entities in that formal sense and also to frankly to the community at large. I don't think there was a council packet that had any of this information in it. The items on the agenda as listed were super vague, and if you didn't really know to look, you wouldn't have known to look. And it feels like, particularly given the timing with the legislation that was passed merely a few days ago, in the dead of night, basically, that this is a really suspect approach, and the city is very concerned about it moving forward. So certainly echo those concerns of the county and hope that there's a way to meaningfully engage with Hideout about these plans moving forward. We really hope that can happen. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Everett. We have no objection to sitting down with Park City as well and taking you through more detailed analysis of what we're considering.
Thank you.
And I'll also have staff reach out to identify a time to do that.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
I'm looking for other hands. So I don't see any more hands up in the Zoom participant section. So I've just asked that if you're only on a phone and not on Zoom, and you have a comment or question, that you can unmute and oh, there's some more hands. Okay, they've just showed up. Okay. All right, Councilman Crittenden.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity of joining your meeting tonight. I guess Wasatch County, we haven't talked about this. We've been aware that there's been some discussion and whatnot. I guess we'd expressed the same concerns that Summit County and Park City has. That I don't know how much information. I know I spoke with our planner today, Doug Smith, and he would have been on this meeting, but they have planning commission meeting this evening, so he's attending that, obviously. But perhaps reach out before you. I would encourage you that you table this, that you don't take action on this tonight. You obviously have a meeting set up with Park City with Summit County. Park City's requesting a meeting. I don't. Perhaps you could combine those two meetings. I don't know. That's up to you, but. I would encourage that you maybe meet with our planning department if you haven't already and share with them a little bit. It seems like it's a little bit of an infringement on Wasatch County as you cherry stem down that road and then reach into Richardson Flat. So anyway, I guess the basic same concerns that have already been expressed by Summit County and Park City.
Thank you, Councilman. Yeah, we again, I had instructed staff to reach out to Mr. Smith to find a time to meet, and we'll make sure that happens.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Baird.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the council, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I just wanted to take a minute to respond to some of the comments very briefly. We certainly appreciate the opportunity to discuss this matter with Wasatch County and Summit County and Park City on a going forward basis, but we would respectfully ask the council, the town council, to move forward and have approved the starting of this clock tonight so that we can begin the process. We think it's a good plan, but we're perfectly willing to discuss it. I don't think this was done in any way inappropriately. The Notices have all been given in a manner that's required by law, and we think the annexation is fully compliant with state statute. So we would ask, and by far in the best interest of not just the town of Hideout, but also Summit County, Park City, and Wasatch County. It'll be a very thoughtfully planned, very well done development, subject to a very thorough and extensively negotiated development agreement. And we would ask you to vote on the authorization resolution tonight and move forward. Obviously, everything else can be fixed and discussed in plenty of time on the remaining hearings that are scheduled and required by state law. And other than that, if I'm available to answer any questions if you have any.
Hey, Bruce.
Yes, sir.
This is Dan. Just to be clear for everybody who's on the line, you are here tonight representing Nate Brockbank and his entity who have the property under contract. Is that correct?
Yes, Dan, I'm sorry. I'm so used to saying I'm counsel for the project that I forgot to do that because of the Zoom nature of this meeting. It's my fault and I apologize. That's correct. I'm counsel for Mr. Brockbank. Mr. Brockbank is also on the phone as well, but we just wanted to keep this simple and short. So if the council has any questions, we're happy to answer any questions.
I have no questions.
And then if nobody has any questions, then I'll mute myself again. Thank you very much.
I'm still looking for any other hands. I don't see them. So again, anybody who's a phone only and therefore not showing up as, or not able to use the computer to raise your hand, you're welcome to unmute yourself. That would be *6, I believe. Is that right, Jerry?
That's correct.
*6 and unmute yourself so that you can make your comment. Okay, nothing there. So then I will close public input.
Mayor, it looks like you have another hand. I don't know if it came up before you closed public input or not.
All right, let me come back and see. Yeah, I do have a hand there. So, all right, Kim Carson, if you come off mute and raise your question or comment.
Thank you very much. I would like to reiterate what Council Member Kendall Crittenden said. Because we had not received any advance notification of this, Summit County respectfully asks that you not make this decision tonight and give us the opportunity to meet with you before you vote on it.
Can I just ask who you represent?
Pardon me?
I'm just unclear. Who do you represent?
Oh, I apologize. My name is Kim Carson and I'm a member of the Summit County Council.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Crittenden, you're back up again.
Yeah, to go along with that, as Council Member Carson indicated, I've looked at your packet for tonight, the map. It'd be nice to see those maps in the packet for the public. This is a public hearing. It would sure be nice to be able to, as a public attending this hearing, to be able to pull those maps up. I've taken a screenshot with my camera that I'm going to try to print a decent copy to look at, but I guess I'd request Mayor Rubin if you could send me a copy of those and the resolution that you referred to. Was it under number 5, or is it under this one?
5 or 6, but yes, we can do both.
And I think you've got my email, so it'd be nice to get a decent copy of those to look at, to share with our planning department. You maybe already have, but that's all I would add.
Okay. The language in the maps were unfortunately late in coming to for availability, so we did not get them into the package for the meeting, but we will get them posted immediately and shared with you guys.
That alone might be a valid reason to postpone a decision on this tonight. Give the public time to look at those maps. And
well, this is again the beginning. If we move ahead, this is the beginning of a public process, which is designed by state law to provide adequate notice and time for comment. Okay, this is not a decision on annexation. This is simply a decision to let me get the language right. Intent to pursue the details for this annexation. So there's no intention here to shortcut the legal process for annexation and all of the appropriate notifications, public input, et cetera, that goes into annexation. This is the, this, as mentioned earlier, this is relatively new legislation. And so we are learning as we go on how this this new municipal instigated annexation process works. So that's why we're doing this tonight, to make sure that everybody is aware that this is early days as we work down through the process. Let me check the list one last time. Okay, again, no more hands, no more comments. Okay. So we're back to, am I sharing?
You're sharing the agenda.
The agenda? Okay, so we're back to item 6. To determine if the council is prepared to adopt a resolution indicating the town's intent to annex certain real property into the town, as described earlier.
I move it.
I second.
Okay, hang on. Okay, I'm going to poll the council. Chris.
Yes.
Carol. Carol. Are you there, Carol?
Yes, I'm sorry, I was muted. Yes.
Yeah. How do you vote? Yes.
I vote yes.
Thank you. Jerry?
Yes.
Kurt?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. And we will provide all these documents as described earlier to both on the town website and to those of you who asked for them directly in the next 24 hours. Okay, item 7, approval of, Jerry, I'm going to give this back to you so we can go back to the package.
All right.
That's okay. Let's see. Participants. Jerry. Make the host. Yes. And I'm going to stop sharing. And there you go.
Okay.
So we're on item 7, approval of bills to be paid. And that should be a live link, hopefully. Yep.
So I had a question here on this roundabout camera. So tell us about what transpired there. I saw some folks in the traffic circle doing some work. I guess that's what they were doing.
Yeah, part of the challenge that we have had in capturing information on those people who are driving around the roundabout the wrong way is that you need visual evidence of both the vehicle and the driver to be able to make a contact. And so as part of our effort to improve the situation there, we're going after a camera system that will enable us to do that. Jan and I are working on where that, inside our public safety budget, where that fits, but we've gone ahead and—
There's money in the budget for this.
Yeah, there is. So, so that's what that's for, Jerry.
Great.
So there was a $4,000 grubbing bill. Where did that ultimately end up?
That has moved out because it's going against the bond fund for the new public service building. It's not in our general fund expenses. It's associated with creating a space to increase fill, put clean fill in around the new maintenance building to widen the amount of space we have in front of the building to be able to accommodate wider vehicles. But that's going against.
Unfortunately, so this is still in the budget, or excuse me, the expenses that's being shown on the screen. It shouldn't be though, correct?
No,
well, that's what's in the packet.
Jan,
I think we got an update to this.
Jan sent an update. This has come out of the latest update.
See if I can.
So, good point.
Yeah. So whatever we're looking at, is there other additions or subtractions other than this?
Jan, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Can you comment to Kurt's question?
Yes. So I added a bill to IT services for $600 some, and some town utilities that we got an invoice for $300 something.
So it'd probably be a good idea if we get the right.
Yeah, I've got it up now.
Okay.
This is what Jan sent out this afternoon. So I'm looking for the 300 something one. That's utility. Is this it, the utility?
It's actually $432.60 Hideout utilities.
Okay.
And then Tech Logic for $630 right there.
It's great to see that there's no TO bills in the non-recoverable.
There is. Oh.
No, there isn't.
Yeah, I'm looking
Sorry,
at it.
I thought you said there was no TO bill at all, but no, it's.
There is that we're coming out of pocket for, is what I meant.
There's one in the bottom, in the enterprise fund.
Yeah, I'm talking about the general fund, the one that we always need to worry about.
Right.
And then here's the enterprise fund. All right, any other questions on the bills? Okay, I'll need a motion from someone to allow us to pay the bills.
I so move.
There you go. Let Carol move.
Okay.
Good job, Carol.
You can.
I need a second.
Second.
Who was the second? I'm sorry.
Jerry.
Jerry.
Thank you. Okay, Chris,
Yes.
Kurt,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Carol.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The bills will be paid. Next item on the council, on the agenda is continued public hearing, continued discussion and possible adoption of an ordinance regarding an impact fee facilities plan. While progress has been made since the last council meeting, we still are receiving input that's going to potentially require us to make some changes to the plan. We expect that input at any time, but unfortunately we don't have it available yet to put this to a vote. So I am recommending that council support me in continuing this discussion one additional time until Dan, should we go for 2 weeks from now, or should we be going into the August meeting?
Well, we can, for purposes of tonight's vote, why don't we put it at the meeting on July, whatever it is, 23rd.
Okay. All right. So I need a motion to move this, continue this discussion and activity until the town council meeting of July 23rd.
And Mary, you're not suggesting that one more time. I know you said that, but I mean, we all hope it's one more, but you're not restricting it to that, correct?
Oh, no, not at all.
Okay.
I'm restricting that this particular item be continued to that next meeting, at which point we will evaluate whether we're ready to move forward and vote or not.
Move it.
Kurt, did you move that?
I did. I moved it.
Okay.
I'll second.
Motion, Jerry second. Okay. July 23rd. I'm just making notes, guys. Sorry, my pen ran out. Took me a second. Kurt, honey.
Yes.
Jerry.
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Carol.
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 9, fraud risk assessment. Our treasurer, Wes, is with us to describe what this is all about. And if you would help us out here, Wes, on what we need to do.
So, as part of the requirements issued by the state auditor's office this last year, they're requiring that we review with the council the fraud risk assessment as part of the upcoming audit for the year prior to the fiscal year end. I provided this with Jan and submitted it to the state auditor. And it basically is kind of a gauge on whether you have potential risk in your organization for fraud or misappropriation of assets. So some of these are just simply putting forward policies. I think for a town of your size, we're doing really good. Even though we have some risk, we've made steps to mitigate that risk, even with this last year's audit. So some of the things that I would like to tackle this next year would relate to adopting different policies for the town in which to operate. and to basically have staff be able to have access to and review those. Some of the things that help limit your risk: do you have a licensed CPA as part of your management team? Do they have bachelors in accounting? Are employees and elected officials required to commit in writing to abide by a state of ethical behavior? Have all board members completed online training at least once in the last 4 years through the state auditor? So a number of these things I do think we can address, and we can move up the scale. And this is really about trying to, these policies are put forth to try to develop a culture within your organization to eliminate fraud. I wouldn't expect you to have, a very low risk or a low risk of fraud at this point in time, but I know we can move into the moderate and maybe the low in the next year as we put forward some of these policies and move forward on them. So
I know given staff size, right, it's very difficult to have a separation of duties and sort of fill in the blanks, including a fraud hotline. Those are things probably germane more to larger cities. But the one that I did notice was having if you go down, Jerry, there's one on elected officials committing to abide by ethical standards. It's a 20-pointer. It's a free throw. Let's just get whatever that is, and let's get it signed, and let's add 20 points to our score.
I agree. And I'd also extend that these written policies, there's 45 points in the written policies. I mean, I don't think that should be very hard to put a written policy together that covers each of these things. And that gets us between the two, that's 65 points. So that takes us from high all the way into low. That gets us in the low range.
Yeah, and some of this is just putting together a personnel policy. So that's something that I'll try to work with Jan to see if we can't put forward some kind of personnel policy for you.
I assume the league has some standard boilerplate that we should be able to mimic and improve upon.
Yeah, those are both low-hanging fruit in my opinion as well.
We can definitely reach out to our constituents. I can reach out to GFOA and see what personnel policies I can get from different cities, and we can evaluate and adopt it and address a lot of these issues.
Yeah, Wes, it's like one step at a time, right? We were in such a big hole, and it's just working the problem and getting it going. It's just a process to become a real town.
Yeah, and it's just a way to evaluate and see where we're at and see how we can improve. It by no means, it's really about trying to develop a culture within your organization. It doesn't guarantee there won't be fraud. Even if you move up to the low, there's still potential for fraud. But
right.
It's just about trying to portray that culture. So I only need to just take a few minutes and discuss that with you as a council. Do you have any questions?
I think, Wes, again, I wish I had a little bit more earlier awareness of this. I think we could have resolved some of these things fairly quickly, as the council suggests, and because this is not reinventing the wheel. There's tens of thousands of companies that have these things available every day. So we just need to get them written out and adopted. So
Wes, I'm more than happy to take responsibility for this letter for town officials to sign, and I'll go search around for best practices and get something to you so you can work on the rest of these.
So this, just Kurt, thank you. But we have done this at least once during my administration. So I know there are documents supporting that, Wes. I don't think we've done it for 2020, but I'm confident that we've done this at least once during my administration. So we'll have to find those and just figure out why we may have missed it.
All I remember is open public meetings training.
And keep in mind too that this is just a requirement. This is the first time the state auditor has actually put this forward statewide. So this is a requirement this year. It's not something that's occurred in the past, and it actually just came out in the last few months. So they're going through the effort in their first year pushing this information out to cities and towns, and to have them do that as part of the process. This has only occurred in probably the last 3-4 months. So I'm confident that we can address and move up the scale and get it to, a level of low risk.
I mean, obviously, this is a paper exercise. The more important thing is to make sure that, in fact, we, walk the walk, and but given the fact that we're such a small town, it's difficult, right? It is a hard thing to, given the few people on the separation of duties, it's difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, Wes, I mean, to be fair, we do have practices that support these things. We do receipting for everything, as you know. We monitor the credit cards, as you know. So we do a lot of things that we just need to validate our written processes around these things. It's not that we're not doing these things as much as we are not necessarily aligned with our written practices around these things.
Yeah, because at the IT and computer security, I know that we've got that. We just don't have anything written down that cements it.
All right. So we know.
Okay. Well, thank you, Wes.
Thank you.
Good. I think it's a great little checklist and healthy for us to go to work on getting our town practices policies up, the rest of our town policies up to speed.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Thanks, Wes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Wes.
Okay. Next item is discussion and possible approval to move forward with a maintenance and operations agreement with Jssd for sewer and water services. I sent you a note some days ago with, at the last meeting, I promised to try and get some competitive bids in trying to go down that path and working with the town engineer. We found that he was unable to point me in a direction of where to go for those bids. I sent a note late today in discussion with the legal firm that helps us with our water activities, Clyde Snow. I spoke with Ted Barnes and asked him for advice there, and he too said that it would be difficult to manage, to identify someone to do that, particularly someone who is not in close proximity. So the question becomes, which way do we want to do this? Do we want to, according to Ryan and the engineering guys, that the towns either beef up their staff and then contract out the equipment activities, or in this case, what we're looking at is going after the Jssd partnership.
I'm of the mind that this isn't something we want to take on within the town public works, at least not at this time. We're not good
Agreed.
enough yet.
And that's where, and we don't have the equipment, nor can we afford the equipment. They've got the vac trucks, they've got the, et cetera. So, I think it's critical that we get on with this agreement. Again, as I mentioned in today's message, we have the right, we'll have the right in our contract to, provide appropriate notice and then, exit the agreement if we're finding it, unsustainable or not working properly. The guys have worked really well with us.
I think we've done our, I'm sorry, I think we've done our due diligence here to see if there are any other possible service options for this. And I think, you and the engineer and have done great work trying to see if there are any other options for the town. And given that it appears as that there are no other viable options, I support moving forward with this.
So what you put in front of us, do we have any dollar figures? Our scope of work?
Yeah, we have a scope of work and dollar figures, and we have a full contract document I've shared with you once before. It's had some minor tweaks, and it's around $70,000, which I think is what we put in the budget. At least we tried to put in the budget. I'm not sure if that stayed in the budget at this point. I have to go back and look now.
I don't know if Wes has the budget open. I don't, but I thought it was 80,000 we had in the budget.
I think I may have missed a revision. So I think it's 70,000 and 75,000 for year one, and then it does increase, just because of inflationary activity if we continue on.
How many years are you talking about?
It can go to 5 years if up to, the original, the term is for 5 years, again, with an option to, get out if we're unsatisfied.
And we have really no basis on which to compare whether this is a appropriate level or not.
Well, from an engineering perspective, in discussions with Ryan, who's reviewed it, from an hours perspective, it's about a half a person plus equipment access, which, given the requirements to flush and scope our sewer system, actuate valves and moving the actuate valves and maintain the water system, maintain the sewer lift stations, etc. From an engineering perspective, it seems well within the range of reason from a cost perspective.
Then now, does any other town use Jssd to do this service?
They do have, they do work for, in their district. They do have another agreement. I believe there's at least one, possibly two. I can't remember exactly, Kurt, but they're, inside Wasatch. So, and, in discussions with, we can get additional input from those communities. Communities.
Do we have the ability to escape at what intervals?
We'd have to go through at least a year because of staffing and staffing planning. But at the annual, I don't think so.
I mean, is
the annual renewal,
the largest contract we have in town? This would be the largest contract we have in town,
this
right?
would be the largest contract. Yeah, other than employee contracts, yeah.
Right.
Well, the police contract, if it goes forward with the numbers that were talked about earlier, that would supersede it.
Roughly equivalent.
Yeah, it was roughly 6,900 a month, so that's 82. So yeah, it's roughly equivalent. I think it's, as a town providing services, it's incumbent upon us to make sure that these infrastructure services are maintained and repaired as needed. Whether or not this is the right approach for us long term, I don't, I'm sure at some point in time we'll grow into a full public works department. We're not there yet, and I think we're years off from being anywhere close to that. Seems to me this is a reasonable approach.
Other members of council?
Yeah, I would agree with Jerry. I mean, we're at that awkward size where, we can't really do it ourselves. And then if we piece together different providers for different types of services, then, I'm not sure we'll get the same result if we won't get as good a result as if we were using Jssd. I would be interested to know how the districts that they serve now are happy, what their level of satisfaction is with Jssd.
Okay.
I mean, we can just jump in and do it and find out for ourselves, but like anything you buy these days, you want to know what the reviews are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And these are critical services.
They are.
I mean,
The
really
last thing I want to happen, is
your sewer backing
this is
up.
why we're here, right? To make sure
Right.
that all our infrastructure is serving the town appropriately. I mean, that's one of our fundamental missions here.
Absolutely.
So what I'd recommend we would do then is I will defer this decision until the meeting 2 weeks from now. In that time, I will get both a letter, if not from the engineer, on whether he's supporting this, as well as feedback from other communities that they may be working with, so that we have additional data to review.
It would also be helpful with those reviews if we're talking apples and apples. What services are being provided? Is it the same suite of services that Jssd is offering us, or if it's a subset?
Well, Jerry, they're not going to be exactly the same, but they'll be similar services because we have different, with different system with different requirements and these other guys. So it's no way is it going to be apples to apples, but at least you'll get a sense of whether the communities that are working with them are satisfied if they're providing additional services besides the primary treatment plant stuff, which they do for the entire district. But I can't promise you that you'll have anything that's an apples to apples. Okay, so we'll push that off for 2 weeks and get additional information.
Yeah, that works. A little bit of diligence, and we could be, we could be there with the decision.
Additionally, the agreement, the latest version of the agreement is expected this week, so I can bring you up to date on the tweaks from that as well. Okay, thank you all. We're to public input. This is normally, we had discussed as a council that we wanted to move this earlier in the session so people didn't have to stay on the phone so long. And I made the decision because of the agenda of having both the sheriff and the fire marshal, that it would be appropriate to not do that before them and hold them up. So, starting the next meeting, we'll look at moving this earlier in the agenda so that the public that doesn't have interest in whether or not we're going to pay the bills, for example, doesn't have to wait till we pay the bills. So I apologize for that, but didn't feel right to hold up public service folks sitting online with us when they might have to react to public service requirements. So anyway, so I'll open the floor to that. Again, we'll do it by the hand raising on
And
On
Chris,
Zoom?
would you raise your hand again so I can see what that looks like?
See that little blue hand there, Jerry? If you hit participants list,
Yep,
you'll see a little blue hand by Chris. That's what it looks like.
got it.
Okay, thanks. So again, this is
And it pops to the
opportunity
top
speak.
too. So yeah, that's nice.
This is for items not already on the agenda tonight. Well, I guess both. It doesn't really matter. But if you've got a comment, by all means, raise your hand.
Thus far, I don't see any hands raised.
Nor do I.
Nope. Ryan's coming into the meeting.
Oh, shoot. Oh crap. Okay.
Carol, we hear you.
I'm
You're on mic,
sorry. Oh, my mic's on, but everything else went off. Let me see if I get back on.
Well, your
Oh,
mic
dear.
and your camera are working. So
Oh.
you just lost your display.
I did.
So
Okay, I have to find it.
beware.
You just switch windows, Carol. Go to the bottom to your Zoom.
Oh yeah, the
You look
camera.
Zoom.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I got it. Okay.
All right.
Sorry. I just went. Ah.
It is technology grant. All
So
right.
still no hands
I'm
raised.
not seeing no hands, so I'm going to close public input. Dan, we had on the agenda a closed executive session, but I think in that we deferred some items and covered some other stuff in other meetings. I'm not sure if we need it tonight, but you tell us. Because we had an executive meeting earlier in the week. You're muted, Dan.
Oh, sorry. I could provide a brief update on the item, but
I would be in favor of that. I'd be interested in hearing what's going on.
yeah, and
right.
yeah, okay.
All right. Well, then, what we would need to do is close the public meeting and motion to move to executive, and then we'll have to, I think what I'll do is I'll send out a new link because there's just so many people on tonight. I think we'll just, is that satisfactory to council?
Yeah.
That works.
Yes.
Yeah, it gives us a
good.
little break too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can have a bio break as well while I'm getting done.
Do we need a motion in this meeting though to move to
Yeah, we need a-
executive?
Yeah,
We do.
motion to close this session and move to executive session
So moved.
to discuss threatened litigation.
Yeah.
Jerry moved it. I'll second if nobody else has.
Okay.
Okay. Kurt,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
and Jerry.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you all for joining tonight. Is obviously a lot more information to come out in the coming days. So we look forward to spending more time with you. In the meantime, we're going to exit the meeting and move to executive. Thank you.